Hey guys, it's Catherine, and long time no see. So this video is actually going to be kind of a little more on the serious side. I'm going to be talking about my pregnancy and my miscarriage and kind of that whole story. And I want to give a really quick disclaimer that I'm not making this video for sympathy or for pity. I'm making this video because when I was going through this, I wish that there would have been somebody that posted a video about it in the circumstance that I was in. So I kind of could feel like I could relate to somebody. So I'm hoping to do that for you guys. And I want to show that you're not alone. And so that's the goal for this video. So a little over a month ago, in May, I found out that my husband and I were expecting our second baby. We already have one beautifully handsome, almost year and a half old son, and we were expecting our second baby. It wasn't something that we were trying for, but it wasn't a bad surprise. From the moment we found out we were pregnant, I knew that there was something different. Having gone through a pregnancy, there's a fly that's bothering me. Having gone through a pregnancy with one boy, I could just tell that there was something that was different, that was going to be different about this pregnancy. And I kept saying from day one that I was either pregnant with a girl or that I was having twins. And to kind of give a little bit of a backstory, there's going to be parts of this that's a little TMI. So if you aren't comfortable with that, just kind of skip ahead a little bit. But my period was beyond irregular since January of this year. Normally my period is right on time every single month, and it was off. Like, I would not have a period for a month, and then I'd have my period for 7 days, which normally is way longer than I usually have one. And so it was just really, really weird. I went to the doctor for it. They said nothing was wrong, like everything looked fine. So we didn't really know what was going on. So then come May, I found out that I'm pregnant. The problem with my period kind of led me to believe that it would be the perfect circumstance for us to wind up having twins. So, I wouldn't have really been surprised during my ultrasound at 8 weeks, once I hit 8 weeks, if we were having twins. Well, when we went to get our ultrasound, there were two. Yeah, so it was kind of a surprise, just because I thought that I was just being crazy. My husband thought that I was just being ridiculous. He was happily surprised that we were actually having twins. And they were having identical twins, so that was even more exciting. So that was at about 8 weeks, and then once they found out that I was having twins, they scheduled me an immediate appointment for the following week to see my OBGYN and to get another ultrasound, just to see which form of identical twins there are. They could have either been mono, which means that there's one sac and one placenta, or they could have been mono-di, which means there's one sac but two placentas. And so one is obviously a lot more riskier than the other one, so they wanted to check up on me to see if they could see what we were at. 2 weeks later, not a week later. Before I could get my second ultrasound, the early morning of July 7th, I was having really light spotting, like super light, like it lasted for maybe like 2 minutes, and then it went away and I didn't have any more issues with it. But I was freaking out because I was having twins and I wanted to be sure that everything was okay. So we went to the hospital, and they checked me and all of that, and as far as they could tell, according to my blood count and my numbers and all of that, everything seemed to be okay. They did an ultrasound, and they found out that neither of the babies had a heartbeat. I, of course, completely lost it. I broke down. And when I was told this by the doctor, my husband was not there at the time. He was taking our son to my parents' house, so he wasn't at the hospital. So he had just left, and the doctor came in and told me. So I was there by myself in the ER room, crying and, you know, wondering why and what had happened, and was it my fault, even though for anyone going through this, please know it's not your fault. There was nothing that you could have done if this happens to you. There is just some issue with either the baby, with your uterus. It's not your fault, okay? Please know that. But at the time, I couldn't stop myself from thinking that. And I was, you know, just devastated because we were so excited to have these twins. We had names picked out. We were saving up money to buy cribs and, you know, all of those things that you need for a baby. And when my husband got there, I told him, and the hospital was so wonderful with giving us the time to process and do all of that for ourselves before they came in. And they told me that since I was 10 weeks along when I found out that they had no heartbeat. So they told me that since I was so far along that the best option would be to get a DNC. Dilation, and I believe it's curettage, I think is how you say it, which pretty much means they dilate your cervix, they numb you up, I think you actually are under anesthesia, and then they extract everything that's in your uterus. I'd opted for the DNC, and they told me that I could go either that night or the following morning. And I was like, let's just go to the hospital, let's just get it over with. And the doctor that was going to do the procedure lived 30 minutes away. His office was 30 minutes away. So I had to take an ambulance to this other hospital to get this procedure done. And I ended up waiting at the hospital for a while because he was busy with another patient with another high-risk delivery. So I was there at the hospital for a really long time. And as I was there, I kept thinking about it, and I just kept talking myself out of doing the procedure. So I told the doctor when he finally came in to see me that if it was okay, I wanted to wait until tomorrow morning, and then I'd come in the morning and do the procedure. And he said that was totally fine. So we scheduled it and everything. Come next morning, I decided I still didn't want to do it. So my husband called for me. He canceled. He explained to them that I needed a little bit more time to kind of process everything, and they were very understanding of that. So they said, that's okay, take your time, you know, just be cautious, we don't want you to get infected. So after we canceled the procedure, I was at home, and I hadn't been bleeding since I initially went into the hospital on Sunday the 7th of July. And for a week, I wasn't bleeding at all. I was having no pain, no cramping. I felt no different, like genuinely no different. And I kept kind of getting my hopes up, thinking, well, maybe they just didn't know what they were talking about. Maybe the babies are fine, and maybe everything is okay. Or maybe, you know, unfortunately one of them doesn't have a heartbeat and the other one's okay. And I kept talking myself into these exciting things that I wish would have happened, but never did. And a week later, I started bleeding, and it was pretty heavy, and freaking flies. About 3 or 4 days after I started bleeding, it got really heavy. I had really, really bad cramping. Like, my doctor that was going to do the procedure prescribed me pain medication because he expected me to have really, really bad cramps. So I took one of them. You're supposed to take one every so many hours. I would take one and it wouldn't do anything. I didn't want to take ibuprofen because I didn't want to bleed more. So I was just kind of left being in pain. And around a week and a half of bleeding, I started, TMI alert, passing really big clots. And at the time I thought that's all that they were. And so I called my doctor and I asked them if I should come in, and they said, yeah, we'll schedule you for later towards the end of this week. If anything more happens, come in earlier, but for right now, we'll just have this be your appointment. When I went for my doctor's appointment, they wanted to do an ultrasound because I told them I'd been bleeding, so they wanted to do an ultrasound just to see where I was at in the process of miscarriage. and they wanted to know if there was anything wrong or, you know, any of that. So they did the ultrasound and they said that all of the pregnancy, the twins, the placentas, everything was gone. So I naturally was able to go through that process without having to get the surgery, which is very fortunate for me. I ended up not getting an infection. I was very lucky, but I was very stupid. Looking back, I feel like I should have gotten the procedure just to not risk getting an infection, but I'm also glad I didn't have to have an unnecessary surgery. But a month later, almost a month later, on the 7th of August, will be a month, I'm still spotting every now and again. So it's not a quick process, you know. Once they're gone, it doesn't mean that you're done. So I don't have any cramping, I don't have any pain at all. My HCG levels, they're at 0 now, so there's 0 residual pregnancy anything left in my body. I'm just still spotting. And the doctor said for me that was completely fine as long as it's not bad, as long as it doesn't seem like I have an infection, then I'm fine. I wanted to make this video because I know how hard this is. This is my first ever miscarriage. We got very lucky with our son. Our son was beyond healthy. It was such an easy pregnancy for me in terms of carrying him. My son was incredibly healthy and still is. We got so fortunate. And this was our first ever experience with something like this. And I wanted to make this video so that way other women or families that are going through this know you're not alone, that there are people that have gone through this, and there are people that are still going through this. And from my family to you guys, I want to tell you that I am so sorry that you have to go through this. It's not fun, and the entire time you're going through the process, it literally feels like life is beating the shit out of you, because you are constantly being reminded of what happened and what's going on. And so for you guys that are going through this, unfortunately, I do hope that it's a quick process for you guys, so you're not having to constantly live the reminder of what's going on, that you're able to grieve and mourn the loss of your baby. But you're not alone. There are other people here, and you know, my comments are always open. You can message me on Instagram. I'm always on my phone. My husband hates it, but I am. But I really want you guys to know that you are not alone, and that I really am sorry for you guys that you have to go through this. It sucks, and I'm sorry. But that's all for today's video. If you want to see more serious videos like this, please give this video a thumbs up so that way I know that you liked it. Please don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell. I'm hoping to have videos up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So hit that little notification bell so that way you know when I do upload a video. And I will see you guys later. Bye.